welcome to another season of Hoda's Career Info, the program where career professionals from across the globe meet to empower you to succeed. This program is brought to you by Right Career Fit. Listen and learn, and remember to have that very important career conversation with a career professional.
Give career a definition that is more about participating on your own terms, from your own sort of place and in the way that you want to do it. There will always be other options, and things will happen later on that you cannot foresee. Collective individualism, I think, is a very sort of good way of illustrating that individuals are always a part of something else, that there's always a context.
Thank you for joining me in Hoda's Career Info, your career program where guests from across the globe share career tips and personal stories to help you successfully navigate your career. I am Hoda, your host. I look forward to another season of career chats with international professionals who will inspire you to take your journey to the next level. My guest today on Hoda's Career Info is Dr. Ingrid Bårdsdatter Bakke. Ingrid is a postdoctoral fellow and assistant professor at the Inland Norway University of Applied Sciences in Lillehammer, Norway. Her research focuses on Norwegian and Nordic work culture and how it affects career guidance and policy, integrated guidance, and career guidance in the welfare system. She lectures and supervises students in the Master of Science in Career Guidance and Further Education Counsellor Students on career theory, career guidance, national culture, and organizational theory. Thank you for joining me and Ingrid. Stay tuned as Ingrid shares her understanding of the Norwegian culture and career development environment. Welcome, Ingrid Bårdsdatter Bakke, to Hoda's Career Info. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm really excited to have the questions, particularly your research, because I work with young people, and I managed to find an article where you talked about young people's experience in your country, and I'm very excited to hear you talk about it. But usually I have two questions that I ask every guest. And the first one is to ask you to choose one term that reflects the job that you do, the services you provide, and then to define it from your perspective. So not the Google or dictionary perspective, but from Ingrid's perspective.
One term to define what I do. So I work with students in career guidance and research in career guidance. In Norway, which is a very sort of small and young field. And I mean, we had our first master students. They started in our program in 2014. So it's a very young academic field. So I think that what a term that I would choose to describe what I'm doing is development and exploration, I think, of what career guidance is as an academic field in Norway, and trying to develop it further so that we can have more research. We can dig more into career guidance in Norway and find out what it really is and how to help our students become competent and career guidance counselors and feel qualified to the job.
Well, I appreciate these terms. They're very important, particularly because I work with young kids and because I've seen your research and I'm very excited by the work you do. But before we get to your research, I want to ask you a personal question. Something about your personal story. You can tell us the whole story, or you can pull an excerpt from your story And give some career tip to the audience.
So my personal story is a lot of back and forth and going here and there and deciding to do something and then deciding not to do stuff like that. So yeah, the first thing that I did after, so what we say in Norway, we have upper secondary, not high school, but what I did after upper secondary was that I went off to one of the folk high schools, which is very common in Scandinavia, where you go off for a year and you do whatever, you know, you work with something that you're really interested in. So I worked with music for a year, and I thought that perhaps I'd become a musician. And then I understood that becoming a musician was really hard. So I started, you know, I started studying at the university in Trondheim, where I'm from. Started studying film science, actually, you know, how to analyze films. And I also found out that that was also quite a, you know, a hard field to get into because it was very small. Then I discovered psychology, so I started studying psychology. And in between, I did a lot of, you know, 6 months of working, or, you know, yeah, a little bit of back and forth. And finally, I finished a master's degree in vocational and organisational psychology. Yeah, but then I was quite old, actually. I was 30 when I finished my master's, so I had a lot of back and forth. And then I worked in the welfare system in Norway, and I worked in recruitment, both in, you know, public sector and private sector, and HR. And then I started doing my PhD. How many years ago is that now? 7 years ago, I started doing my PhD. So when I finished my PhD, then I finally felt that I'm, you know, I'm finished with my education. I have reached a place where I want to be, and yeah, where I still want to be. So I haven't started wavering or thinking that I should do something else yet. I'm still in academia, and happily so. So I guess my career story is, you know, I guess you need to try things, you know, you need to go with the flow, and you need to figure out if you really should follow your interests. And I mean, in the end, all you get is a really big sort of knowledge base and a lot of, you know, that sort of experience about how things work and how you work as an employee, you know. So you get a lot of knowledge about yourself and how the world works. And I think that is just really, really important and very helpful when you're working with career guidance, at least.
And your story is definitely representative of the career term that you chose, which is the exploration, right?
Yeah. Yes, it is. Yeah, yeah. I think so. Yeah. So, and I mean, that's also what I'm, you know, hoping to do through the rest of my career, is to continue doing that. And I think that is just what is so great with research and working with education and academia, is that is the job. Yeah. So I really enjoy that.
Well, now I'm going to take you to your research, Ingrid, and ask you about particular articles that caught my attention, again, because I work with youth, and I think it's a very interesting research that you did, where you explored how Norwegian teenagers, their career thinking is influenced by their culture values. I love the questions you ask the students, and I think everybody should be reading those questions. And I was wondering, what can you tell us about your findings?
So when I started off doing with my research, one of the things that I had been thinking about for a long time, actually since I did my master's in organizational and vocational psychology, was that, because that was the same time at the same time the Norwegian policymakers and stakeholders within education and, you know, the vocational authorities, they had started developing this big national system for career guidance in Norway. Sort of, you'd always had people working in schools or in the, you know, employment centers working with vocational guidance, but you have never had that sort of that big system for lifelong guidance. So that came like in the early 2000s when I was doing my master's, and I was very curious about how would that work with that big system for career guidance in Norway when there is like a cultural idea about career as something quite negative, actually, because the career word had this sort of negative connotations of of climbing that ladder, sharp elbows, being really sort of you hear like terms like, well, she's just a career woman, she doesn't want to have baby, all of those things, were like a part of the discussion about career in Norway. And I was really curious about how can this big system for career guidance, lifelong guidance, work in Norway when the context is so colored by these ideas of career. So when I started doing my research, that's what I wanted to go into. So I thought that, if I want to talk to people that have sort of some fresh ideas about career and what it is, they've just heard about it, they're just trying to figure out what it is and what it means to their lives, then I would have to talk to young people in schools. So I talked to 10th graders in lower secondary, because in Norway, you have to choose between an academic route and a vocational route after 10th grade. So they were in this process of making that choice. So they were getting career guidance in school, career learning, the counselors would really have put them through this program of trying to figure out who you are and what you want. And so I traveled around Norway, because Norway is probably like Canada, a very sort of diverse country with very big differences between how people live in the north and in the south, or by the coast and in the inland. So I sampled, around the country, trying to get as diverse opinions about what career is and how it works and what does it mean to people. And I did get a very diverse picture. But I also felt that the young people that I talked to, they were really sort of open to it. They kind of felt that this is a term that can work for, this life project that I have, this trying to figure out who I am, this term can frame this quite well. While the grown-ups that I talked to, because I also talked to their counselors, the school counselors working with career guidance and career education in schools, and they were quite skeptical to the career concept and felt that it put pressure on the kids talking about this. They were a bit worried that perhaps the parents would, feel that they were putting pressure on their kids. All of that stuff, all of those connotations were very real with the adults in the school. I felt that what I needed to do was to sort of point to that and make this really clear that this is what is going on when people are thinking about career in Norway, and perhaps suggest another way of thinking about career in Norway that could, fit better with the way that we think about work and, society and stuff like that. So the kids, they were open to the career term, but when I discussed it with the grown-ups, the counselors and the teachers in the schools, then they were more skeptical to it, because they felt that it was kind of it was challenging in a way, put pressure on people. Bringing it into career guidance and education in schools would put pressure on the students, and perhaps, it would make this a much bigger and more dangerous and sort of, what's a good word? Dangerous is actually quite a good word for it, because, if you're thinking that you're making the wrong choice, then everything falls apart. So yeah, so they were really skeptical of bringing that word into their career education. So what I hope to do after I had sort of made that point was that I hope to try to figure out what is going on in Norway in the Norwegian work culture, that could give meaning to the word career in another way. So I started looking at our culture and looking at, what defines the working culture, what do the Norwegian culture appreciate with working, and how does sort of people working fit into the sort of the bigger picture in our society. And it is very important because work is the way that you participate in society, in the community in a way, and it's both like a responsibility and a privilege at the same time. You contribute as an individual to this community that also gives back when you need it. So it is a very important part of sort of the social system of Norway that people participate in work. And the young people that I talked to were also very positive about work, and they also very much look forward to being part of this sort of bigger system and participating and doing their share, and just had ideas about themselves as, not as someone that had achieved a lot, but, just someone who were working independently as grown-ups and, autonomously. So a lot of positive ideas about working. But also, the stuff with all the egalitarianism and universalism and all of that stuff that makes it hard for us to talk about career when we think of it as climbing a ladder and stuff. So what I've been writing about after I did my research is that perhaps we should try to define or give career a definition that is more about participating on your own terms, from your own sort of place, and in the way that you want to do it, and where the main thing that you're trying to achieve is to become a part of this big community, so that you are eligible to also receive what you need when you need it, in a way. I can give you that definition, actually.
I would love to hear it. I'm always playing around with a career literacy definition. So
Yeah.
I would love to hear it and see how it fits with what I've been playing around with. I've been trying to define career literacy for a year now, trying to see what should be in it as just a complete sentence. And it's been a bit challenging because of the different cultures I come across. I love your work, and I love the way you described the term career from your perspective.
Yeah.
And as you were thinking about the term career, for us in Canada, it's about career guidance, where people are resistant to get career guidance in the school system. And then as you grow older, you don't want to work with a career, consultant or a career coach, because there isn't much value people feel that they will add to what they already know.
One of the things that is really important in Norway at the moment is to professionalize career guidance, because we haven't had, well, it's been a role in schools, we've had it in the welfare system, as I said, but it hasn't really been sort of defined or had a competence base, or have these sort of competency requirements and stuff like that, that goes with professionalization. And I think that one of the things that we have to do is that we have to find a way to talk about career so that people feel at home with that concept, so that they can actually say that, yes, I am a career counselor, and because career is about participating in society much more than climbing that ladder, so that people can sort of feel connected to it, because it is a key term to what we do. And other researchers have also shown that career guidance counselors will be uncomfortable with being called career guidance counselors, precisely because other people see the career word as so difficult. Yeah. So that's important to the profession, I think.
And that makes sense. And I'm glad you are on your journey. I cannot wait what you're gonna to see what you are going to right next. Now, based on your experience, what advice would you give to young people today looking for their next steps after high school, or perhaps for you in Norway, looking to make that decision? Am I going to go the academic route or not?
It's important to remember that will always be other options, and things will happen later on that you cannot foresee, that you cannot plan for. All you know is where you are at the moment and which interest you have and sort of what you can or cannot do and stuff like that. And I think that it's just very important to listen. Do you say listen, or do you feel that gut feeling, or at least to follow it, so that you start whatever you do, you start from a place where you kind of feel it in your gut, in your heart, that you're doing something that feels right. And perhaps it'll change. You'll have to change your direction, or things won't go as planned. But at least what you end up with is a lot of career competence about how the world works, how the world of employment and work and education works, how you work. All of that stuff is really important knowledge that can always help you, further down the line. I cannot say anything about which jobs give you more money or stuff like that. That is not what I'm good at. I can just say that from my experience, and what I always say to people, that sort of have to do some introspection first and then look at the options later.
Yeah, no experience is a wasted experience. I mean, I think of your journey that you just shared with us, I'm sure you picked up skills along the way that you will probably use right now in your job today.
I did. Yeah, absolutely. So perhaps it's also, I mean, I've been very fortunate living where I do, where education is free, and you have sort of opportunities to choose something and then sort of go another way. And if you lose your job, then you'll have support, to make a living so that you can find another one. There is a lot of these sort of social system benefits that's really helped me on my journey. And I understand that that's probably not possible for a lot of people, that, many people don't have that opportunity. So obviously that sort of, many people do not have the luxury of just going with their gut feeling. But what I have seen when I've been working with the Norwegian working culture is that any work gives dignity, and you always, when you at least have that you're sort of participating in this big system, and you're doing something, you're participating, you're sharing, you're contributing to the system working for other people that might be in bigger need, to get them what they need. And that is actually a very gratifying thing in itself. But just being a part of the bigger picture can also be a good thing.
Absolutely, Ingrid. I do have one more question, and I thank you so much for your time. When I work with young people, I always remind them to step out of their comfort zone, go on explorations, kind of like you did, when they can and when they have the opportunity to do so. So what are some of your situations or events that you're hoping to put you out of your comfort zone and try new things as you continue to explore and grow?
I really enjoy sort of being underway in a way. I feel motivated by having, I guess that is why all of this education stuff is so appealing to me, because I really do like sort of what's it called in English?
Lifelong learning.
That you stretch for something. You're trying to reach something. You're trying to reach the next step. I really enjoy that. So I feel that is both challenging and motivating. And now I've done a PhD, and kind of the next thing for me in academia is trying to become a professor. So I'm trying to do that. And that is really challenging and really putting me out of my comfort zone. But I am enjoying it still, because that is actually the way that I like to work.
And that's what matters, is to feel good about the work that you're doing. And you seem to be enjoying the work and doing great research, I have to add.
Thank you.
Ingrid, I usually like to wrap up by asking my guests if there's anything they would like to add that you wished I asked you about, but I didn't.
But as I was just looking at the question number 1, because that's when I talked about the development and exploration thing. But one thing that I've been thinking about that I would love to bring up in this interview, because now I have a chance to talk to a lot of people about it, and I really think that it's very important, is a term that came up when I was looking into what other scholars have been writing about Norwegian culture. And it is a term which is collective individualism. And which is one of the things that, people say is one of the societal glue in Norway, is that, you are an individual, but you're given all these opportunities because of the collective, because of the system that sort of supports you. But I don't think that that's only relevant for Norway. I think that that's relevant for everyone, because we always have to remember that even though we have our sort of individual projects and we are autonomous and we are kind of going by our gut feeling and, our interests and all of that, then we're always doing that on the basis of someone supporting us. So there's always a collective or a context or, a society that sort of gives us that opportunity. And I think it's important to sort of remember that when you're working with your own career, then you also have kind of a responsibility to remember that you are part of something. And I think that the collective individualism kind of illustrates that. So I guess that it is one way to look at what Tristram talks a lot about, the social justice in career guidance. It's one way to look at what kind of responsibilities that we have as individuals to value, to take part in, and to sort of feel that responsibility for the community around us and the context that we live in. So that was what I wanted to say, now that you gave me the opportunity.
I am glad you used this opportunity, is to use this collective individualism term and educate us about it. Such great advice to wrap up the episode with. Thank you so much, Ingrid, for your time, and I look forward to more conversations.
Thank you. The same to you. Thank you for having me.
You've been listening to Hoda's Career Info, the program where career professionals from across the globe join me to empower you to succeed. My guest today on Hoda's Career Info was Dr. Ingrid Bårdsdatter Bakke. You can connect with Ingrid on LinkedIn. I hope the tips shared by Ingrid encourage you to include introspection in your career journey. I look forward to your feedback in the comments section. Please remember that you can listen to Hoda's Career Info, since it's also dropped as a podcast. To let me know if you are interested in an opportunity to talk about your work, you can send me a direct message on my website, writecareerfit.com, where you can also sign up for my newsletter to stay up to date on the latest episodes. Don't forget to share your feedback in the comments section. Remember to like, subscribe, share, and follow me on social media for more career info. I am your host, Hoda, and until next time, stay inspired and keep moving forward in constructive ways.